The deal we thought would be done by now, Donovan Mitchell to the Knicks, seems to have fallen completely apart thanks to a big extension for RJ Barrett, and coaches, scout, executives all talk in the NBA offseason survey. Are the Warriors being disrespected? We're going to talk about it right now on the Wednesday Locked On NBA.
You are Locked On NBA, your daily NBA podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Oh yeah, middle of the week, Wednesday's here, and we are ready to talk about the NBA. Locked On NBA, free, fresh, daily for you, your team every day on the Locked On Podcast Network. And on Wednesdays, we are your two regular co-hosts. I'm John Karalis, at John_Karalis on Twitter, and I host the Locked On Celtics podcast.
And I'm Jake Madison, host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast. You can find me on Twitter at NolaJake. I am happy to be back and talking NBA in the offseason. Also, nice Roddy Piper shirt there.
Got to give the hot rod his due, man. Always love. I think I might love Roddy Piper more for what he did after wrestling than he did
you're
in
a
wrestling.
big movie fan?
Oh, yeah. And
They Live classic?
They Live. I have referenced the They Live. I referenced it in a piece on Boston Sports Journal. The I'm all out of bubblegum line is just the line. It's one of the all-time classic. Yeah, it's an all-time classic line. But
John Carpenter, Keith David, that movie's awesome.
I also loved Roddy Piper in the It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia as the Maniac, which just a few episodes, but he was just so chef's kiss perfect. So big fan of Roddy Piper. I miss him. All right, let's.
Okay, hold on. I got another two more things here. You got me talking about this. Have you? So here's a movie, and to all the listeners, if you want to see the weirdest movie ever, it's called Hell Comes to Frogtown. And
I have not seen that.
If you could track this down, I might have a DVD of it like hidden somewhere in a box. It's like the most ridiculous. Just go look it up, right? Like I'm not going to spoil anything for you. Yeah, it's worth trying to find that ridiculous movie.
Hell Comes to Frogtown?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna get a text from you later tonight, and you're gonna like have Wikipedia'd this to try and see like what the premise is, and you're gonna be like whoa.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I'll make a mental note of Hell Comes to Frogtown. In the meantime, we've got to talk about the hell that has become Donovan Mitchell trade, which was all but done. Everybody thought it was done. Donovan Mitchell to New York. It makes the most sense. We've said it. Everybody said it. You can't talk about the NBA without saying that. You know, absolutely. They just need to kiss. That was the network embraced your analogy of the Knicks and Donovan Mitchell just needing to kiss. And basically the Jazz were told to kiss off when RJ Barrett got a monster rookie extension. And now that means that if he is going to be included in a trade to Utah, that now creates what's known as a poison pill, which for short version for people who don't know or care to get into collective bargaining agreement minutia is because it's a rookie extension, it's the outgoing salary of what the Knicks have to match, because you have to match salaries, is much lower than what the Jazz have to match. It's just it's two different numbers. And so that makes it very incredibly, horribly difficult, and now must include a third team. Jake, think that this is the Knicks calling Danny Ainge's bluff. And I went on Locked On Knicks, and I told those guys, Danny Ainge will walk away. He's not afraid to walk away. Don't think that you guys have all the leverage. He does not feel threatened by keeping Donovan Mitchell. He's not afraid of things getting uncomfortable, and this is what's going to happen. Donovan Mitchell probably going to start the season now in Utah.
Yeah, he's definitely going to start the season in Utah. I think that's safe to say here. But let me ask you this, right? Is this so much the Knicks walking away from this, or is this maybe just the Jazz weren't that interested in RJ Barrett in the first place, given everything kind of what they're going through with their rebuild, all of that. Like, were they really that interested in him? Does he fit the timeline of a complete teardown, given that he's going to be on his second contract at this point, making a good bit of money, though I don't think that contract is horrible for him, maybe a slight overpay right now. It just doesn't seem like that would be the guy. Like, it feels like they would covet picks and future flexibility over a young potential all-star right now. They have that in Donovan Mitchell, who's not a potential all-star, is an all-star.
Right. I feel like Danny Ainge wants it all. Like he just did the Rudy Gobert trade. I think he just did the Rudy Gobert trade, which was just a monster overpay by the Timberwolves. And I think he just wants something similar. As I said on that Locked On Knicks podcast, Danny Ainge doesn't just want to win trades. He wants a 40-point blowout win of the trade. He wants people to react like they did when he traded Gobert to Minnesota. Have everybody say, the Timberwolves gave up what? How many? What? And so I feel like the Knicks said, hey, you're getting RJ Barrett, and we value him very highly. And if you're getting that, you're not getting all of these picks. And if you want all of those picks, then you're not getting RJ Barrett. And Danny Ainge, I'm guessing, said, well, I want both or nothing. And so the Knicks said, all right, fine. We're going to give our guy the extension, and you can piss off. So that's how I feel like it went down. They weren't going to give Danny Ainge everything.
Yeah, sure. That's just, I think, to an extent, right? Like standard negotiation on how all of this stuff goes. You're going to have one guy ask for the world, and then you've got to kind of come down and do other stuff. And that's proven to be, the reason he isn't there just yet. I do wonder, though, if a deal can still get done without RJ Barrett being in there. Would the Utah Jazz, in the end, if you have to accept an offer for him, say around the trade deadline, and then they're like, we're going to move him at this point, would they be interested in RJ Barrett or two more picks, let's say? And it feels like it's the picks. So while this maybe presents a breakdown in negotiations right now, I don't know if it's going to prevent a trade from happening in the future. And maybe, in a sense, the poison pill doesn't come into play because maybe the Knicks looked at this and realized, Jazz don't want him. Let's just give him the extension right now. And then we can also go to RJ Barrett, right? And be like, we chose you over Donovan Mitchell. And what does that say to him? And how does that empower him? And does that make him feel good? Because these guys have egos with all of this, right? I think there's something to be said with all of the teams potentially trying to trade for Kevin Durant, of like the Celtics going to Jaylen Brown and being like, we chose you over Kevin Durant, right? Like, right. That stuff matters with some of these players, I think, and with some of these teams. So I wonder if that's also partially in play with this. And they still know they can get a deal done later because maybe the Jazz just don't really want to go through this RJ Barrett thing and then have to realize they have to trade him in a couple more years because he's on his second deal. He's going to be an unrestricted free agent towards the end of all of that, right? And then you're going through this whole same process with Donovan Mitchell in like 2 more years with RJ Barrett, 3 more years probably.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered with this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline is where the game starts. Yeah, look, I don't think that the Jazz were coveting RJ Barrett. I don't think they sat there and said, it's got to be RJ or no deal. I think they want both because Danny Ainge is trying to flip a lot quickly. I think he wants a ton of picks, and he wants I think he wants the.
Yeah, he wants everything, right? Like that's the smart thing for him to try and ask for. I think this might just be standard negotiation, right? I've seen the poison pill stuff thrown out, and like no one gets dealt on a poison pill deal, right? Like no one at all, and that's a big part of the problem. I just wonder if that's going to end up maybe not factoring in because, like, I just don't know how much they necessarily covet RJ Barrett. If you can get him, like, sure, do that, right? Because you can always trade him for other stuff later, so it only adds to your haul.
Yeah, sorry, I had a technical issue that derailed me there for a second. Yeah, look, the poison pill contracts are not impossible to trade. They're not. This doesn't make a trade impossible. It makes a trade more difficult. It makes the trade tougher to pull off because you need to now find, as was noted in the ESPN piece, You need to find a place for Evan Fournier to go, because once you have the poison pill and you need to do that thing where you're two different matching things, that means now that Fournier's contract has to go to a third team, because now the money that's being sent out is okay, that matches that side, and the money coming into Utah, that satisfies the thing. So now you have to find, either you got two options if he's going to get to New York. One, you wait until after, next July, and you do it then, and you say, hey, Knicks, if you want him out, you're gonna have to figure something out quickly, or you involve a third team, and maybe Danny Ainge says, yeah, I don't worry, I can figure out a third team for you, no problem. Maybe he thinks that, but again, Danny Ainge not afraid about something being uncomfortable with his team. He'll work through it, and frankly, if he's looking to tank anyway, Donovan Mitchell, who's not exactly fully involved and may not exactly be, it may not be conducive to winning, he's fine with that too. So like, he say, well, if you keep Donovan Mitchell, you're going to win games. Well, maybe Donovan is just going to be like, you know what? I'm just going through the motions now, and you're not going to win those games. I don't think this Jazz team's going to win a ton anyway. So
No.
Yeah. So
Also,
we'll have to see.
Yeah. Also, that third team music sounds suspiciously like the Lakers at times if they need to make some sort of changes in the future.
I mean, they are. I love that. I just love that you said that, because they are desperate, and if they say, hey, we need shooting, we can take Evan Fournier and we can send out. Maybe they can find a way to send out something. That does change a lot of the math on this, but I can see. I mean, look, the Knicks are going to get involved in a trade. I mean, the Lakers are going to get involved in a trade. No matter what, they're always going to be part of the rumor. So basically, this has a big pause button on the Donovan Mitchell trade talks, because I don't think anybody else is really going to be diving in. But who knows? Maybe this opens up. Maybe Miami pops in somehow. Maybe another team. Maybe this opens things up for another team. Maybe that's why Danny Ainge did it. And he said, hey, I got other teams here. Everybody's talking about New York, but I got places I can go with this. So I feel like this, he should be gone by the deadline. Like I at this point, I feel like he should be. But
we're not the only ones who think that, but yes, I agree with you.
But like I said, Danny Ainge willing to get uncomfortable. We'll come back, the NBA offseason survey with some interesting choices for best player, best team, NBA champion, and in the NBA Locked On NBA group chat, a little discussion about the Golden State Warriors and a lack of respect, maybe. We'll talk about that in just a second. First, let's talk about BetOnline, which has the Celtics as the front runners for the champs right now. That's the team that I cover, so we'll see. Maybe that's right. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your pro and college football betting needs and sports info this season. You can find all the latest football league developments, game matchups, news, and podcasts, including this year's opening week's games. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, including live betting, esports, and scores. It's the fastest and easiest way to check on all your favorite sports and events, including MLB, MMA, boxing, all those combat sports, golf. It's all there. Esports is there. I mean, betting on esports, I never thought I'd see the day, but here we are. So head on over to the website today. You can use your mobile device to do so. Learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Please gamble responsibly. Hey, thanks for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. Since we're your team every day on this podcast network, you can check out Locked On Jazz for the latest on the Donovan Mitchell stuff that we talked about. Locked On Knicks, I'm sure we'll have a lot to say there. And all of us across the network, including my Locked On Celtics and Jake's Locked On Pelicans, going strong in the offseason. We're the only ones going this hard in this part of the offseason. Your team is certainly covered very extensively on the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, Jake, I love these offseason surveys. ESPN published the NBA offseason survey. Headline, what coaches, scouts, and execs are watching ahead of this 2022-23 season. Tim Bontemps always does this. He has his straw polls. He does a great job with all of this stuff. Right away, first topic, best player MVP. Lots of love for Giannis Antetokounmpo. Giannis getting 11 votes for best player, 7 votes for that's the best. It's 5 votes for MVP. So runaway for best player, Steph Curry is next with 3. LeBron has 1 vote. And then MVP, it's Giannis with 5 votes, Luka with 4, Embiid with 4, Curry with 1, Ja Morant with 1. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, probably. Like that. Yeah. This seems right. Like, yeah, you know, Giannis is pretty good. I think it's safe to say that, right? Like, he's awesome. Yeah, he does things that no one else can really do. You know, I'm a little shocked at the lack of, I don't want to say respect, right? Votes for maybe a guy like Jokic in there as a 2-time MVP, but hasn't had some of the postseason success, which is probably what's holding him back from being higher up on that list. It seems like there's just a vote for LeBron because, yeah, someone's going to do it until LeBron is probably out of the league. Curry, Steph Curry. That's the only thing that really jumps out at me is maybe you'd expect to see a guy like Jokic in there, given we've never really seen a big man pass like that. And back-to-back MVPs is pretty good too. But I got no problem with Giannis in there. You could vote for like probably 2, 3, 4 guys, and I'd feel comfortable with that. And given that he's a big man that plays like that, right, and no one can stop him, yeah, sure. Everyone would pick him to probably start a team with.
Absolutely. I think he's the runaway guy for sure. I like the Jokic point because it brings up that, yeah, he's an MVP. He's obviously a tremendous player, but I wonder if people have this bias towards the face-up guys because Giannis, as big as he is a face-up guy. And you say best player, the bigs tend to, even a big like Jokic who passes and is a, you know, back-to-back MVP and all of that, and deservedly so. I do wonder if there's that bias of, well, yes, but you still have to give him the ball. He does bring the ball up. But, you know, bigs have always gotten that little bit of a knock where you got to give him the ball. He can't bring it up. He can't do the things himself. So the best player, the best overall player is the guy who can face up and break you down and stop and pop and get by you and dunk on you. Like those tend to. So when you look at best players, Giannis, Steph, LeBron, all the guys who catch and face up, even though the MVP, you throw Embiid in there very close for the MVP, right? So now it's not that people discount a big's importance, even though Jokic isn't in the MVP. I think the Jokic, I think people are like, okay, we gave him 2. People lose their minds a little bit over the 2 that he got. Fine. All right. I think everybody, all the voters
will go a different direction here.
We're all ready to move on. The fatigue is there.
I think it's some of it. Again, I think probably the lack of postseason success is hurting him in this too, right? They've made one Western Conference Finals with him, and they got run out by the Lakers in the bubble.
I don't know how fair that is, though, because no,
it's probably not.
It's not his fault that Murray's been hurt and that Porter was hurt, and I think if anything, I look at what Jokic did on that team postseason wise and say, if they didn't have him, they might not have even gotten to the postseason. Never mind, what were they, 4 seed, 5 seed, like that? That's like, I don't think the postseason stuff hurts him like it would. Like Joel Embiid, I think, has more of a postseason lack of success hurts Joel more than it hurts Jokic.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I don't know. I'm just trying to rationalize it in some capacity. For him not to get 1 vote in there, I think is a little surprising. And this is like a small sample size, right? We got 15 votes here. This is not like the NBA GM survey where they have to fill it out and can't vote for their guys, which will come a little bit later too. But I bet it'll mirror this pretty well too.
Yeah. But I do think that the fatigue, the Jokic fatigue is there, and we'll see that. Best player in 5 years, still Giannis. Luka in there, and this is Jason Tatum's lone appearance. People saying that a couple people saying Jason Tatum will rise to best player in 5 years. Luka slowly working his way up these charts, though. He's 6 votes for best player in 5 years and 4 votes for the MVP. I mean, he's in there. People starting to give Luka a little bit more respect as far as that goes. So.
It's kind of funny because in this same survey, and we'll get to this, right? Like they were voted as having the worst off season.
Yeah.
Look, if they're good, it almost feels like these people, right, who they used for all of this are going to give him a ton of credit for it probably deservedly so, given that they lost Hardaway and all of that. So it's kind of funny to see all that.
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of like the early voting. You get the sense of how some of these people are throwing their. I mean, these aren't people who are going to vote, but you get a sense of how the league is feeling getting into the season, and voters talk to these people, and
totally.
So they get a sense of what this kind of mentality will start to permeate the media. I think the media will start to mirror some of these things. So Luka, like you said, they're setting up Luka to be like, hey, Dallas actually didn't have a good offseason, which we all know.
They took a step back and look at him carrying them. Also, it was Brunson, not Hardaway, but point remains there. Yeah, it's set up to kind of like build the narrative for him of like, oh, this team regressed. This team took a step back. Look at what he's doing now.
Right. So if they do take a step forward or at least stay the same, then you're going to see that's why he will start to get some votes. That chatter will still be out there. I will go to bat for my guy, Jason Tatum. Not a single person said Tatum will get any MVP consideration there. Which you get Steph Curry, Ja Morant. I like that Ja Morant stepped in there. Like Ja is getting his due. I love that Ja is starting to rise like he is in a small market like Memphis. Fun team over there. I really do like that. So that's going to be fun. But I don't know. I guess with so few votes, you can only go with so many guys, right? Giannis. These are all legit people. So I'm not going to go too crazy about being disrespected. Maybe the Warriors are the ones who got disrespected. That's the question. That's the question. Let's take a second here, and we'll come back here with the Warriors being disrespected here. First, I want to thank everybody for making Locked On NBA your first listen every day. We've got great podcasts across the network, including NFL's coming up. So there's Locked On NFL and all of your NFL teams. If you're a basketball fan that hasn't gotten to the other elements of our network, there's Locked On the NFL side. There's hockey. So there's the NHL side. There's baseball, MLB. We're starting to get, we're getting into September. So playoff time is coming. So check out all your favorite teams across all sports on the Locked On Podcast Network. So we have a little kind of group chat for the Locked On NBA hosts. And when this survey came out, it was like, hey, look at this. This is a lot. We can all talk about this today on the network. We all have something to talk about. And our host, Cyrus, Locked On Warriors, was like, oh, I will be talking about this. Oh, don't worry. I will be talking about this. Because the votes for the West champs are Clippers, 8 votes, Suns 3, Warriors 3, the reigning champion Warriors, 3 votes for Western champions. And for NBA champions, Clippers are the favorites with 5 votes, with the Bucks and Celtics behind at 4 votes each, and the Golden State Warriors at 2 votes each. Jake, we'll play real or fake right now. We'll play our regular Wednesday real or fake. Jake, this is a smack in the face of the defending champion Golden State Warriors.
No, it's not. That's fake. A little bit of disrespect. Yeah, I can buy that. But like burying them, they're dead, right? No, I love Cyrus, right? I love that we have all these different hosts that take different approaches to things. I try and be somewhat balanced on Locked On Pelicans, just like you do on Locked On Celtics, I know. And then Cyrus is like an unabashed homer on Locked On Warriors. Any little slight, right? This is like Michael Jordan making things up that people said about him just to give himself some extra motivation to go out and destroy this random dude in a game because otherwise he wasn't like mentally up for it. That's kind of how I see this. Look, there's definitely a little bit of disrespect there. We probably wrote the Warriors off a little too soon this past year, hence with them winning the title again. But I mean, when you look at this, when you start to kind of look at the favorites and things like that, it's, I got no complaints about, some of these teams here. I would say, I wouldn't really put the Phoenix Suns over the Golden State Warriors, right? It's Clippers with 8 votes, Suns with 3, Warriors with 3, Nuggets with 1. It probably should be Golden State behind the Clippers by a decent bit, I think, ahead of the Suns. That's my real complaint. But is tied for second a huge slap in the face? Probably not.
No, I don't think so. I think it's also fake. I think to me, and I said this in our chat, I think it boils down to very simply, it's hard to repeat. So if you say, well, look, the Warriors just won a championship, it's hard to repeat. So I'm not going to pick them to win again. And Kawhi's back. Paul George is back. Like, they're healthy theoretically. Will they stay healthy? I don't know. But when you get Kawhi back after all this time off and you'd think, hey, he's fresh, he's ready to go, maybe there's a little bit of momentum there behind the Clippers. I don't know if I look at the Clippers and we'll call it a runaway because it's 8 votes to 3.
It's a runaway. I think that's safe to say. It got more than half the votes, right? That's a runaway.
But do I think the Clippers are going to run away with the West this year? I don't think so. So
is that a team you trust at all?
No, never. I just don't trust
fair.
them to stay healthy. I don't trust them to stay healthy. And I just never trust the Clippers no matter what. They could be starting, Jesus at point guard. And I'd be like, I don't know, man. This is something's always going to go wrong with the Clippers. But no, I don't trust that Kawhi is going to, or Paul George is going to make it through the whole season. There's just always something there. So, but if you're looking at the West and you say, of course the Warriors are going to be very good, but they're a little older. Steph is a little older, and they lost some key guys. They lost an important player in Gary Payton, and they are not the exact same team. So, but you can make strong argument for them going back for sure. You just won the championship. You can always make a strong argument for them to go back, unless somebody retires. But you say, look, Steph is a little older. You just 1 year older, another short turnaround. You think that maybe so look at the West champs. You can very easily say the Warriors are going to cruise through the first 4 or 5 months of the season, and they're probably going to not worry about what seed they get. So no, I'm not going to pick them to win the West necessarily, as far as maybe they fall into a bad matchup and it costs them. So who knows? But I still think picking another team and not picking a team to repeat, unless that team is full of 24, 25, 26-year-olds and there's not a lot of turnover, I don't think there's anything wrong with saying the Warriors maybe not going to repeat, but they still got votes, and going a different way, not really an issue for me.
No, and I think people really buy into, what Kawhi Leonard is capable of doing. He's going to be fully healthy. He's going to play. That team looks very, very good on paper. You have a motivated John Wall in there too. He just talked about kind of how dark the past couple of years have been for him. I'm going to be really interested to see him on that team. There's reason to pick the Clippers, and it's not just disrespect towards Warriors. I loved what Kane Pittman said in there though, which made me laugh out loud. Literally LOL'd. He's the host of Locked On Bucks. He's been on here before too, where he's like, I hate to tell you, Cyrus, it's not disrespect that they didn't get votes to win the East because they can't. That was pretty good.
I love it. To win the East, Milwaukee Bucks 7 votes, Boston Celtics 7 votes, Miami Heat get 1 vote. So kind of what, obviously I have a better working knowledge of the Celtics. So I have a good feeling about this team winning the East. Milwaukee is right there. I think they're going to be so dangerous. We just talked about Giannis.
We just talked about him.
So if he's going to be that good, then Milwaukee's going to be that good. Philly not getting a vote. Miami only getting 1 vote, I think is interesting. It just sheds a little bit of light. To have basically the Bucks and Celtics split the vote, and Miami got 1, but to not have Philly in there, like, I just wonder how much people are buying into their offseason.
It's interesting. It depends on like what version of James Harden are you going to get. It does seem like he's kind of more motivated this offseason than he has been in the past. I'd probably have done this vote almost exactly the same. I'd probably put Philly with that like one vote instead of Miami. I don't really trust that Miami team that much. I didn't think they looked particularly amazing despite being the 1 seed last year. And the fact that they're kind of desperate to add another star and upgrade their roster probably kind of gives you a good preview into kind of how they're thinking about their own team too, even if it is kind of the Miami way of doing things. But Duncan Robinson hasn't kind of been the player that we expected. Same for Tyler Hero at times. That really hurts them, I think. Philly, it's similar to how you feel about the Clippers, right? People just don't trust them. Yeah. Like, who knows necessarily what you're going to get out of Joel Embiid in the postseason? What are you going to get out of Harden? That seems to be, they're just not getting the benefit of the doubt like some other players. Like, Kawhi's getting a huge benefit of the doubt here, right? Like, that's what he's getting. But he's won a title, multiple titles, been finals MVP before, so you give him that. You probably don't give that to James Harden, to Joel Embiid just yet.
Yeah, I agree with that. Let's want to rapid fire through the rest of these questions and quick 1 sentence thoughts. Let's just go through all of these. Best rookie in 5 years. Banchero and Holmgren split the votes. I think that's fair.
Yeah,
yes.
The Chet injury kind of really colors that one a good bit. It's definitely Banchero.
Yeah, I mean, I'd probably vote for Banchero. Just the little bits that I've seen. I know that I'm not going so crazy deep into their scouting, but so which team will Kevin Durant be on the day after the trade deadline? 13 votes. He stays with the Brooklyn Nets. Considering that they're just signing, was it Markieff Morris? It seems like they're trying to build around KD. I'm going to guess the same thing, that he just sticks it out for the year and let's see where it goes.
They'd have traded him if they could have traded him.
Right. Donovan Mitchell, the day after the trade, they did this before the RJ Barrett, but everybody said the Knicks, so that kind of bolsters that argument. Okay, which team had the best offseason? Celtics had the most votes at 6, followed by Philly, Utah with 2 votes each, and then Hawks, Clippers, Knicks, Kings, Wizards all get a vote. Celtics with 6 votes. I mean, getting Brogdon, getting Gallinari. No, Gallinari just tore his meniscus, but that doesn't seem to be like a horrible injury. But getting Gallinari alone is probably one of the better pickups of the offseason. I mean,
when I was getting Brogdon, because I was like, what did they do? And then I was like, oh yeah, they got Brogdon, who fills like a huge need on that roster and just upgrades them, and then didn't lose any of their top 6 guys, 8 guys in any of these deals. That's huge.
Yeah. So I think that's Dallas Mavericks. We just mentioned had the worst offseason. Brooklyn Nets, Charlotte Hornets, Brooklyn Nets, Denver Lakers, Minnesota, and Portland all, 1 vote apiece there. Dallas lost Brunson and didn't replace him. And so that's why Luka, we already talked about that. Luka's most surprising move of the season. Rudy Gobert to Minnesota, runaway winner, 10 votes.
Yeah, that's the easiest answer ever. Yes, especially for 6 first-round picks.
Crazy. I think maybe not so much that Rudy was traded or that he went to Minnesota. It's the deal, the entirety of the deal.
I do love that Russell Westbrook still being a Laker got 1 vote. We need to put a sentence here that says something about this.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I think that's a good one. That's it. Those are all the questions here. So just to run down the rest of the surprising, all the 1 votes, Harden taking a pay cut, DeJounte Murray to Atlanta, Malcolm Brogdon to the Celtics. No huge moves among elite contenders. 1 vote there. So that's the survey. That's everything. Final word, Jake?
I don't know actually if the Dallas Mavericks had the worst offseason, but I don't love what they did either. I think that actually is the one thing that surprised me the most. They like kind of, in a sense, ran away with it. They had double the votes over anyone else. I actually think, and this almost pains me to say it, Christian Wood might be good for them.
Yeah, I mean, he could be. He could be. I mean, a lot of people believe in Christian Wood. I think. Okay. I think there's a lot of holdover from his early Detroit, like, oh my God, this guy's surprisingly good. And then he just kind of fell into, I don't want to say obscurity, but people remember him from being surprisingly good. And then he kind of fell, people didn't really see a whole lot of him, and they still remember him as being surprisingly good. So that's always going to follow him as the, hey, what about Christian Wood? So I think there's that.
He puts up stats, right? I don't know if those are stats that translate to winning. That's a big question mark I have around him. You can put up numbers on a bad Rockets team, on a bad Detroit team, right? I don't know if that's going to translate to a team like that, but if it does, I think that's actually a pretty good pickup for him.
Well, we'll see. Maybe it will be. I mean, I might vote for Brooklyn just because of how everything just went. It was weird. They had the weirdest offseason.
All that really came out is Kevin Durant would like Steve Nash and Bobby Marks fired, and all three of them are still there. So that seems great.
Yeah, that's. So, all right, that's the survey. That's the podcast. Thanks to everybody who watches and listens to the show on Wednesdays, where we host. I'm John Karalis, host of the Locked On Celtics podcast. Find me on Twitter at John_Karalis.
And I'm Jake Madison, host of the Locked On Pelicans podcast. You can find me on Twitter at NolaJake.
The show is free. The show is daily. It's everywhere you get your podcast. It's also on YouTube. Subscribe there. Give it the thumbs up. Comment. Let us know what you think. Play our real or fake game on Wednesdays. Do all of that stuff. And share the podcast. Tell your friends, family, everybody that they should be listening to and watching the Locked On NBA podcast right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.